Hello, and welcome to Writer Rant, author advice in 5 minutes or less because I have to get back to writing and so do you. The thing I'm really annoyed with right now is homophones. Uh, Obviously, there's a lot of homophones that people already know about in terms of writing. You've got your there, and there. Those three, those are usually pretty common. You have your two, and two. And then, of course, you have your, and your, which is less common. Uh, a lot of these are pretty amateur mistakes, especially those sets. You definitely don't see those a lot. Most people have kind of had it drilled into them that those homophones have different meanings and you should know which one you're using in your writing. The trick is that I'm starting to see almost a second tier of homophones that authors are using that they aren't using in the right way. And it's a matter of, it's kind of jarring because if you know what the word is that they're using and you know the word that they want to use, like your mind kind of takes a second and tries to figure out, well, what do they mean? Do they mean this? Do they mean that? And so that's brief second of uncertainty, certainly it takes me out of a story. I don't know about you. One of the ones that I'm finding is really annoying is the difference between peak, and peek. So the first peek is essentially like a sneak peek. If you have a sneak peek for a movie or a new book or whatever, that's PEEK as compared to the other two. So the second one is peak as in the top of a mountain. It's PEAK, and those two are different. Obviously, they have very different meanings. The third one is used a little less, and usually you see it in the term a fit of pique or it piques my interest, and that's going to be PIQUE. And while it's not very common, when people say, "Does this pique your interest?" and they use the term for the top of a mountain, obviously that's not going to pique my interest because they've used the wrong word. There's some other ones too that they sound the same, and in fact, uh, they are pretty much the same form of the verb. So, for instance, lead and lead. So, lead, L-E-A-D, can also be pronounced as lead, the heavy metal. And knowing the difference between the two, even if you say it out loud, it's like, oh, that's lead. It's like, well, yeah, but that's not the verb lead. That's the noun lead. And knowing the difference between the two can certainly help. One that caught me up early on in my writing was the difference between taut and taut. So it's the difference between a rope that's very tight, T-A-U-T, as compared to something that is taut, something that a teacher does. Uh, Similarly, you've got like great and great, and that's a little less common, but you definitely see occasionally people are like, "Oh, that's great," and I'm like, "Yeah, if you're grating cheese." Um, and another one too is definitely past. So you have the past, like what's happened before, but then you also have past, P-A-S-S-E-D. Essentially, like if you're driving on the highway and you go by someone, you passed someone. Knowing the difference between those two is pretty good. And even though they're not homophones, when you're writing, sometimes it's easy to drop off letters. So definitely read through your stuff. So if you're saying your character took a breath, don't add an extra e on the end of that because that's breathe. That's a different word. So definitely, yeah, take a good look at your work, put it aside for a while, and it gives yourself a fresh perspective so you can kind of see these words that aren't necessarily the words that you intended to use, but they slipped their way in. And that's where having a good set of readers, beta readers, critics, essentially, to help pick those things out of your writing and say, did you mean this? Because this is what this word means. So the better we know our words, the better our writings will be. So keep an eye out for those homophones. This has been Benjamin M. Weilert, and thank you for watching Writer Rant. If you have anything that you're kind of frustrated about that you see in other people's writing, post a comment below, and maybe I'll get to it soon. Thanks.